results. Today is announcing that Leighton Contractors, the government is today announcing that a consortium led by Leighton Contractors is the preferred developer, the preferred proponent for the Row 8 project.
And a large donor.
Mr Speaker, they have been through a competitive process and have been appointed to that status. What will happen now is that contracts will be finalised. We expect that to be completed before the end of this year, and we expect construction on Row 8 to start early next year. Can I say that Row 8 is an essential piece of infrastructure.
No, it's not. Say it's not needed.
Row 8 is an essential piece of infrastructure. Row 8 is an essential piece of infrastructure which is required both for the existing harbour as it exists and is also required for a future outer harbour at Coburn Sound. So Row 8 is absolutely essential. The Row 8 project will take some 5,000 trucks a day off Leach Highway and other southern suburb roads. It is important for safety. It will also reduce travel time and indeed reduce freight costs. So it's an essential piece of infrastructure.
No, it's not!
The Row 8 project was originally thought to...
In the 1950s!
The Row 8 project was originally thought to cost up to $700 million. It's been a very competitive bidding process, and we expect the final contract price to be less than $500 million. Of that, as the negotiations are undertaken also with the Commonwealth, we expect probably the final split of funding will be around 60% from the Commonwealth and around 40% from the state. Now look, I am very conscious of two aspects. This is essential infrastructure for Western Australia. We are a trading economy, and this is essential. It will service both Fremantle Port and a future outer harbour whenever the date is finally set for that. It's important for road safety. This will save lives and it will reduce congestion on the roads. Can I make another? It will do that. Now I am very conscious. Excuse me, I am very conscious that this is an environmentally sensitive area, and therefore the design and the construction will be conducted in such a way as to absolutely minimise the impact on the wetland during construction, and once completed it will be designed in such a way that both terrestrial and marine species will have as minimal impact as possible. So in conclusion, before I hand over to Dean Nalder, this project is now decided. It has all the necessary state and environmental approvals, and the project will now proceed. Contract finalisation this year, construction early next year. That's the timetable, and those decisions are made and completed. I'll now hand over to Dean to comment on some of the details.
Mr. Barnett. Mr. Barnett, try 30 years putting trees into this beautiful place. 30 years.
Thank you, Premier. Look, I would like to just comment across a number of elements regarding the project. We know that 73% of all crashes on Leach Highway are rear enders.
How many crashes? How many crashes? No one said. No one said that. Other part of the equation. No one said. No, this is compared to
43.5% across on average across the metropolitan area. And incidences involving trucks on Leach Highway account for 11.1% of all incidents.
Running at 80 km/h through the suburbs.
Versus 5.4 across this project will take up to 2,000 trucks a day off Leach Highway, and we look forward to making our community suburban roads and highways safer. I'm happy to talk about it. Would you like me to keep going? From an environmental perspective, we're impacting on 6 hectares of wetlands, 30 hectares of intact vegetation, and about 50 hectares of degraded vegetation. We have rerouted the road to ensure it follows these high voltage power lines that you see behind me. We will be bridging. We will be bridging across the wetlands.
There is no space between the high voltage power lines. I know because I've come here hundreds of
times. I spent 20 years of my life trying to protect this area. There is no space between the high voltage power lines for you to build an unnecessary road.
We have We know that this highway will reduce carbon emissions by thousands of tonnes.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of tonnes over the next 10 years. It is an environmentally responsible project to undertake. It is an economically responsible project to undertake. And with the hospital precinct, it is a socially responsible project to undertake. We will get on and make it happen. Thank you. Where's
where are you up to with the second stage of will that be going underground diagonally?
I can't comment on that. I need to speak with Cabinet prior to... We need to speak to Cabinet prior to that. It hasn't been taken to Cabinet yet. The Premier and I have had a conversation about the options, but our priority right at this point in time is to progress Row 8. I will not confirm that until I have briefed Cabinet formally, and at this stage I won't comment on it. We're here to talk about the first phase and get Row 8.
Turn around and make a comment
Look, we've got
about
to go
the
through the
space under
formal
the power
processes.
lines.
I have had a briefing with the Premier. We're still talking about it further. I will then take it to Cabinet, and at the appropriate time we will announce. At this point, we are committing to construction starting early next year for the first phase on Row 8. Other components, I will update at the appropriate time.
Stay to the space under the power lines. Have a look at it. Turn around. Have a look at the space under the power lines.
Look, we've had a number of people over a long period of time requesting the government to get on and do this. We know that there are always going to be people that don't wish this to proceed, but we believe.
And all the councils that don't
I'm
want
not
it
getting
either.
into discussions on the implementation right now. Jeff, right now we're announcing it. We need to now work with the proponents to finalise the contract and finalise the design of it. Look, we're going to get on and make it happen. And this government's committed to doing that.
You're only going to make it happen by selling it.
Look, we'll work through the implementation and what the government needs to do to ensure this happens.
We find what you said it come under $500 million.
Yes.
Row 8.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is that because you left out components, i.e. because the interchange at Stock Road's not part of that, is it?
Within the $500 million, we're including the interchange at
How are you going to get it over the river?
Really?
Does that include
how
all that
can you explain it?
budget?
Because prior to this year, prior to when Row 8 was revived, we were looking at figures around 800, 900 million.
Yes.
Why is there such a huge cost differential there?
We're seeing across a number of our projects, the contracts are coming in around 30 to 50% below the P50 at the moment. We're very fortunate position. There's been a downturn in the construction industry. We're seeing competitive pricing, and it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to construct infrastructure projects and create jobs in Perth at this point in time.
So what does it mean for the total cost of Freight Link? You did say 1.6. If it's come up, what are we looking now at?
We're not discussing that at this point because we're still working through the second phase.
Come on, look, it's simple maths. I mean, you did allocate a certain amount for Row 8.
We've said that the overall budget plan and the P50 estimate on the total project for phase 1 and 2 was 1.57 billion.
Well, how much did Row 8 come in under?
Well, I'm not getting into that because we still haven't finalised the final contract.
It seems to be shifting and not going to the upfront cost.
We're announcing the proponent today. We're announcing that we will start construction.
We need to the Liberal Party over the last 16 years. Is it $743,300 by any chance? $750,000?
We need to do the final designs and finalise the contract negotiations. We're in that process. We know that the contract will come in under $500 million. This is a great outcome for Western Australia, and we will be proceeding on that basis.
No one knows.
Okay, thanks very much.
I know that people here oppose this very strongly. I respect their position, but can I make it absolutely clear the decision has now been made by both the state and federal government, and this project is proceeding. Change the government.
If the government changes, this won't get through.
Well, look, I mean, there's a lot of people here protesting, and that is their democratic right, and I'm sure they'll protest again. But again, I just say the decisions have been made, the contract will now be finalised, and construction will start early next year.
You accept that you're going to have to mount a fairly big security operation to make this project happen?
Oh, well, yeah, people protest on various projects, and I understand people's feelings here. But the point I want to make is this is about essential infrastructure, it's about road safety, and it's about doing it in a way that has minimal impact on a sensitive
It's
area.
likely you're going to have to bludgeon it through. You're going to have to bludgeon the project through the protesters.
No, everything has been designed, everything has been funded, it has been designed, it is funded, the decisions have been made, and there will be a construction project on this site within about 6 months.
Do you believe a tunnel for the second stage is a viable option?
That's not what we're dealing with Row 8. That is our first project. The next major transport project is the rail line out to Forestville and the airport. They are the two current projects that we're concentrating on. They are the ones that will go into construction next year.
What do you worry about the political damage this will do running up to an election? I mean, a year of this is going to damage.
Well, I think also you will find that a great many people, probably a majority in the southern suburbs, want Row 8 to be built.
Premier, will those laws to increase the penalties for protesting and make it harder for people to do things like thumb lock and so forth be factored into this?
No, people can protest, but they will not be able to interfere with the construction, and if they protest, they'll need to do it in a lawful and orderly way. No, it's not related to this.
Is it into effect yet?
That's not related to this project. Sorry, flies are friendly. Very friendly. Look, people will protest, but the project is going ahead. There is going to be no further discussion about that.
Can I ask on the Swan Valley bypass, what's the timetable to that? We've had another car, a truck accident last night.
Yeah, Dean can probably answer that in a moment. Yeah, he's got the details better than I. Okay.
Can I just ask Premier,
Yeah, sure.
going to happen on a 6-lane freight highway?
No, what I have said is that Dean, I presume, is going to contest the pre-selection for that seat, and I just make it very clear that any member of Parliament, any candidate outside Parliament,
Is he too scared to go for Perth?
is entitled to contest a seat. So any suggestion that the seat belongs to one person or another is false. Any member can contest the seat that they'd like to represent.
Wouldn't it be great political leadership, though, to take on a tough seat and prosecute the argument on his signature policy?
Look, that is up to a candidate, or in this case, two members of Parliament. They both will make their decisions and they'll contest the seat, and that is their right, and that is the principle of the Liberal Party.
How difficult is it going to be to win Bert, given the anger over this project? Impossible.
Well, people have their views. Look, I'm not going to get into election speculation. That's still 18 months away.
When can we get a decision on the second stage of Freight Link?
This is about Row 8. We make discrete decisions on transport, both public and private or roads. The decision here is on Row 8. Row 8 stands alone. It is essential for both the existing inner harbour and the outer harbour in the future, and it's essential to get 5,000 trucks a day off suburban roads. So Row 8 stands by itself. Row 8 stands by itself. It's been part of the Metropolitan Region scheme for about 30 or 40 years. And then as to the further stages, they again will be discrete, separate decisions.
But it's only essential to the inner harbour if you've got that second link.
No, it's not. It's essential right now.
You hit right.
Row 8 is essential on its merit. That's why it's been in the Metropolitan Region scheme since the 1960s. Look, what happens between the end of stock and the existing harbours yet to be decided. But you need the extension for either harbour. So this stands by itself.
That so much is still contested about this. There'll be appeal for the Federal Environment Minister, and there's so many questions to be asked. They've announced Leighton's as the contractors. We know that Leighton's have donated nearly $750,000 over the years to the coalition partner. To the coalition, so surely questions should be asked about donations to political parties in these sorts of things. The conflicts of interest are huge. We know from all the reports that Row 8 is not needed for the outer harbour. The trucking companies have said they've sat through stakeholder engagement and said they don't want to go onto Stock Road. That's 14 sets of traffic lights to get them down to Banana. Row 7 was built with a huge loop to be able to get those trucks off road onto Kwinana Freeway. That's why that loop is there. It was built. Ask Main Roads people and they'll say that was built there so the trucks could go onto the freeway and get them safely down to Kwinana. This road is going to nowhere. They should not be building any of this until they have a full plan and they've actually talked with the community. The outrage by the community is huge. As Kate said, less than an hour's notice and this huge number of people who have been here today. And this is just the start of the fight. We are going to be here absolutely every day. Yes. This road will not be built.
We saw some really intense scenes when Farrington Road was built, people protesting, trying to stop that construction happening. Will we see something like that again?
Who knows what will happen? As Kate said, this lets us stop this in the legal courts. If they announce contracts, my understanding is if the Supreme Court, we win the Supreme Court, that road, anything that they've done, that construction will be illegal. So Colin Barnett is actually pushing through illegal road, and it has to be stopped. I know he's pushing through the protest laws to try and stop us through that, which is the worst possible laws Australia has ever seen. This takes the proof of innocence away from everybody, and it has to be, absolutely people need to be up in arms and realise that are they caught with a thing? So if a farmer is caught with a padlock, he then has to prove that that padlock was not being held to stop a gate, to stop a mining company coming onto his farm. So, we've got a lot of challenges ahead, but we have a huge, wonderful community that knows this is wrong. We have all the councils that know this is wrong. Where's the business plan for the Outer Harbour? Watch this space, because I think there'll be one coming sometime, and the Federal Department of Infrastructure must check, or the Infrastructure Australia must check any business case for an Outer Harbour against this road. It won't stack up. The money can't stack up.
I'm calling on the Premier and the Liberal government not to proceed with this road. This road is a waste of money. It's a toll road to nowhere. It doesn't fix the problem. If they build this road, it will just mean they delay the construction of the Kwinana port. They delay a real solution to the freight issues confronting Perth. On top of that, they're going to destroy this beautiful wetland. If they build this road, it will be a stake through the heart of this beautiful wetland. It will not fix the freight issues. It will be an expensive road to nowhere. It will be $100 million per kilometre of road. That's right, $100 million per kilometre of road. That won't fix the issues confronting our state. The real issue we need to deal with is the long-term issue of providing a decent opportunity for expansion of trade, expansion of container traffic. The real solution is a new Kwinana port with decent links to the south of here and more freight on rail. If the government put this $500 million plus into that, well then we'd have a long-term economic benefit to the state.
Do you think that the Premier underestimates the feeling of the people who are opposed to Row 8, or he doesn't really care?
I don't think the Premier cares. He's just determined to build this road for reasons I can't fathom. This road will not fix the problem. Anyone who looks at a map will know it does not fix the problem. It doesn't connect to Fremantle Port. It doesn't connect to a new port in Kwinana. It's a useless waste of huge amounts of taxpayers' money. And that's why we're saying to the Premier, don't do it. Save the wetland, save the money, come up with a long-term solution to the freight needs and the transport needs of Perth.
What does it suggest to you that the Premier is now only talking Row 8 as a separate project as part of the Perth Freight Link? He wouldn't even answer questions on the second stage of Perth Freight Link today.
It shows, once again, incompetence and dysfunction. Incompetence and dysfunction. In December last year, he put out a press release with the Commonwealth saying the entire project would be constructed. Now, a few months later, 10 months later, he's coming up with another option. But the problem is this: if you build this 5-kilometre road at enormous expense, it does not fix the problem. Everyone knows it. It's just he's determined to do it because he's pig-headed, unfortunately.
Do you think it's another sign that stage 2 is ultimately going to be built?
I don't know what's in the Premier's mind. When you ask the Transport Minister, you can't get a sensible answer. We're saying dump the whole project. Don't just proceed with part of it. Dump the whole project. because there's better solutions to deal with the freight problem.
I believe that this project has to be dealt with as a whole, that it has to be stage 1 and stage 2. I think it's very clear that Mr Barnett just wants to go ahead with stage 1. We have had no business case done for proceeding with stage 1 by itself. It just simply would never stack up on any Infrastructure Australia assessment. So this has got to be, we're calling on also the federal government to not release these funds until they have got some certainty about stage 2. We don't support any of this project, but it is particularly fraudulent to be going ahead with just part 1 of this project when there has been no cost-benefit analysis done on stage 1 by itself. It just simply would never stack up, which is why it was dressed up as being part of another project. So we've really got to be using this scarce federal funding to go into something that is actually going to be useful for the state, and that is building a road and rail link into a new outer harbour. I just want to say also, for the last 18 months, the federal and state governments have fought tooth and nail to stop any documentation coming out about this project. Every FOI application has been fought to the wire because they don't want the public to know the reality about the traffic modelling that underpins this project. It is highly problematic. It is a great indictment on both the federal and state government.
Their
this is
website says will respect the environment and community aspirations. As others have said, this is an incredibly important bit of the world, and I personally can't believe that Premier Barnett is proposing to spend $500 million on a road to nowhere, a freeway that will do nothing more than create an extraordinary traffic pileup on Stock Road, and that they're refusing to disclose either to the federal government, who they're asking to pick up the bill, or to residents all the way between here and suburbs north of Fremantle as to where this freeway is going and how they propose to get it into the port. A lot of the work has already been done on the proposals, as Mr McGowan said, counter-proposals for getting on with dealing with our growing freight task in a way that's not disruptive to these wetlands or to these communities. So our message today to Premier Barnett is that this is really the last chance before that contract is signed to listen to the community, not just to those who've appeared today, but all of those who will turn out to stand in the way of this project if that's where they push it.
Do you think that there's a chance that this protest will go national in the same way that James Price's point the protesters come from other states? You had it was probably went a lot of the way to convincing the developer there not to proceed with that project.
Well, it did. I mean, it's an interesting setup, isn't it? Because that was another one of these projects, a bit like the shark coal, that Mr Barnett was thoroughly committed to, where when push comes to shove, they back down. And James Price Point's a really instructive example, because there it was partly community resistance, that was local people calling for help nationally, and that's obviously what's going to happen here. And it was also that the business case didn't stack up. When the proponents finally got down to the numbers, they realised that it wouldn't work to put that plant on that beach. And this is another one of those examples. Western Australians are pretty good at sticking up for ourselves when push comes to shove, whether that be in the old growth forests or at Ningaloo or at James Price Point, and now here in the Beeliar Wetlands. This is where we're going to be making our stand. And Premier Barnett, I think, should listen to those who are still saying the door is open to avoid this massive confrontation. We'll certainly be calling for help from over east, but ultimately it'll be local residents driving the campaign as they have been doing for years.
Where is the federal inquiry up to?
So the inquiry, the Senate inquiry, we held hearings in Fremantle a couple of weeks ago. We reported in November, and we took a lot of good evidence, even though the state government didn't have the courage to turn up. We took a lot of good evidence about the proposal for a container terminal in Kwinana, and I'm hoping that we can get as high a degree of unanimity and agreement as possible across political lines to put those counter-proposals in front of the Premier and in front of the federal government. And the fact is, this was Tony Abbott's freeway. I don't think Mr Turnbull is necessarily as committed as his predecessor.